Sean, you got me now?
Yeah, I can hear you, Thad.
All right. Sorry about that. First, want to update the guys who did not play last week. John Feliciano.
Yeah, John returned to practice today.
And is he good to go or full practice or anything beyond that?
Nothing beyond that at this point.
Spencer and Starr, can you say anything about those two guys?
Yeah, both are off the COVID list.
Okay. And both are full practice, no restrictions as far as you can tell?
At this point, right. Yeah.
With Tre'Davious, I have two questions. First one is, when a guy like that is out, you always talk about next man up. But when it's a player of that caliber, or maybe a player of that position, is that more a situation where you need more than just the guy who's replacing him to step up, that other guys around the roster, even both sides of the ball, have to up their game a little bit?
Yeah, collectively as a team, really. And not just on that side of the ball, but collectively as a team. When a guy like that goes down, it is next man up regardless. But I think collectively as a team, just overall, we've got to take our game to another level.
The other thing I wanted to ask is when Harrison had his long rehab, he talked about having some dark times and close to depression, that kind of thing. Based on that experience that he had, is there anything different that you're going to do to help Tre'Davious or to provide him extra support to make sure that, none of that, or he doesn't get to that spot emotionally?
Yeah, I mean, rehab is tough and it's challenging. I believe that we've got a great staff that can help though too. And part of the reason why we have the resources we do through the generosity of Terry and Kim is to support our players in times like this and our people, quite honestly, in times like this as well.
Thanks, Sean. Appreciate it.
Yeah, sure.
Hey, Sean, John Warrow, AP.
Hi, John.
How good, how well was Tre'Davious playing this season, and how big of a void does his absence create going down the stretch?
Yeah, he was playing, I thought, really, really high-level football, quality ball. He's done that through the course of his career, really, especially the last couple of years. So, it's probably a better question for some of the opponents that we've played in terms of how they've viewed him. But I'm confident that Trey will return to form, and he's going to get through this time and space in his life and his career, and look back on it one day and say what he learned from it and what he can share with his children as he's raising his children as well.
And lastly, how maddening have the inconsistencies of this team been over the last 6 games, and just how maddening have they been?
Yeah, I mean, we've been inconsistent, at times, and I think it really comes down to us being, shooting ourselves in the foot in some situations and circumstances with penalties, turning the ball over, so on and so forth. So the great part about the season is we've got to continue to work every week to improve, and that's really the growth mindset. And that's our challenge this week, along with playing the first place New England Patriots.
Thanks, Sean.
Sure.
Hey, Sean. You look at Josh's season, and obviously you mentioned the inconsistencies as a team, and I think maybe some of that's baked into it. But there's been he signs a big contract. Some fans have wondered if he's not played up to the contract this year. But then you look at his numbers, and side by side, first 11 games, he's actually better in a lot of categories than he was a year ago. I wonder why maybe that is, why maybe the eye test isn't meeting what he's actually seems to be producing.
Well, I think sometimes what comes with this is a thought over here a little bit. What comes with those situations is expectations, and so I mean, those are for other people. Those expectations are for people outside of our building. What we do is focus on the part we can control, and I think Josh has had a good year. I really do, and so we've moved the ball offensively. I think again we've shot ourselves in the foot, and that's what we're looking for moving forward is a higher level of execution going forward.
And I know you couldn't talk much about Starr and Spencer while they were on the COVID list, but now that they're back off of it, how did they make it through that just physically? Because obviously we've seen varying levels of bouts with COVID. I mean, Dion and Mitch was on it for a little while. It seems to differ for a lot of people.
Yeah, I'd rather not go into their medical history, if you will, at this point. I don't think that's right in respect to their privacy. But the part that's good to see is they're back. They're both healthy. Our medical team did a great job in helping them get through it, and I'm glad to see them and being back in a good spirits and back with their teammates.
Mm-hmm. And finally, for me, talked a little bit about Tre'Davious, other guys having to step up. I'm interested, curious. Dane went in for him last week. In the days that have followed and early on this week, how have you seen him respond with a potential big opportunity ahead of him?
Yeah, I mean, he's always been a guy, coming from Pitt that has had our DNA in terms of, gritty, resilient player that's tough, and he's up for the challenge. I know that, and we have a lot of confidence in Dane Jackson.
Thanks, Sean. Appreciate it.
Sure.
Coach Mookie Arkansas for Sports 1080. How was your Thanksgiving weekend?
That was good, Mookie. Hope yours was also.
Absolutely, Coach. But this Patriot offense, Coach, they run multiple sets, and I know that's a headache in itself. But one thing that the Patriots have mastered is the sweep. How difficult is it to prepare for that, especially when they can run it to either play side or backside?
Yeah, they do a great job. Josh McDaniels has been calling plays there for a long time, one of the best in the league, and does a great job. They have continuity on their staff, and they set things up via formation, play action off of it. They do a phenomenal job, and that's why they are where they're at right now.
Absolutely, Coach. And, you spoke it early on before the season started on having that growth mindset. Having processed that for the last 11 weeks, how has that helped your team mentally thus far prepare for basically the biggest game of the season right now?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's an important mindset and approach every week. That's part of what we can control, and, us improving every week. There's certainly a lot we need to work on and improve on as a football team. So that's what we're focused on. That's what we were focused on today, and we'll be focused on it again the rest of the week here.
A great week of practice, Coach.
Thank you.
Hi, Sean. Wanted to ask about Gabe Davis. He had a pretty good year as a rookie last year, obviously. And is it safe to say that it's like through no fault of his own that he's just being used a little bit less this year? And if so, how tough is it on a player like that who's kind of seemingly done, a young player like that who's seemingly done everything he's been asked to do, and maybe even played a little bit more efficiently this year, but has just had to kind of, take a reduced role?
Well, I mean, when you look at it, I don't know if it's necessarily been reduced. I haven't counted the reps exactly to the detail there, Nick. But I think his impact, in particular over the last few games, offensively, has been felt. He's been very productive, both in the pass and the run game, and I think he's taken a team first approach, which is huge and not easy to do in terms of when you've had the year he had that first year a year ago, and coming back this year. And I think that's a mental adjustment for some guys, and he's handled it extremely well. And I think that's part of the culture that we have. And when you win, it's usually because of the team, and very rarely because of one guy. And I think he's embraced that mindset.
And what will it mean to be closer to full strength on that D line with having Starr back, especially, and going against a team like New England, which has the potential to, kind of line up with the fullback and run it right at you?
Yeah, I mean, they're physical, very physical. We'll have our work cut out for us in more ways than one, defensively and as a team. So we're going to have a good week of practice and improve a lot of the areas of our football team.
Thanks, Sean.
Sure.
Hi, Sean. Jim McBride from the Boston Globe.
Hi, Jim.
Hi. I just wanted to get your impressions of Mac Jones and your points of emphasis this week as you prepare to play him for the first time.
Yeah, talented young quarterback. As I mentioned earlier, Jim, Josh McDaniels seems like he's up to his old ways of developing another young quarterback at an elite level. I think Mac is off to a phenomenal start. He's as good as advertised. There's a lot of talk out there about him, and does a great job, executing their offense. So it'll be a big challenge for us.
Do you see any similarities with this Patriots team as the ones in the early 2000s when they also had a strong defense and a young quarterback that were just kind of asked to not make mistakes and not turn the ball over?
Yeah, I mean, I wasn't in the division back then, when it kind of really started rolling, but certainly played New England over the years, both at Philly and then at Carolina, where I was in previous stops, Jim. So, I mean, they're playing really high level football. Again, well coached, they execute well. They're not beating themselves, play good complementary football. Their offense is, I think Mac Jones is off to a great start, as I said, and they're very physical in what they do.
Thank you, Coach.
Sure.
Hey, Sean, how are you?
Good. How you doing?
Good. Wanted to get your take on how quickly Bill has turned things around here with the Patriots, seemingly where they were last year, earlier this season to where they are now. Was there any surprise that they went from where they were to where they are now?
No, I mean, when you look at the moves they made in the offseason to improve their roster, I think, right away they got to work right away, it appeared, in terms of the moves that they made, and both through free agency and the draft. They allocated a lot of resources to both opportunities there via free agency and the draft, and then you can see obviously the blueprint and the footprint in this case that Bill leaves on the team through never working with him, but just outside looking in. A lot of respect for what he does and how he goes about it, and he's won a lot of games for a reason, and he's one of the best, if not the best coach to ever coach. So, yeah, I mean, I think there's a lot of us coaches out here that try and study how they do things there.
What's that like from your perspective to try to match up, mano a mano with Bill Belichick, his staff versus your staff, the in-game adjustments, the preparation, and how do you approach that? Is it different than another week where you're going up against another coach?
Well, I mean, yes and no. I think number one, it's going to be decided by the players more than anything. I'll start there, and then B is, Bill has X amount of years as a head coach of experience, more so than I do. And at the end of the day, there's a lot of experience that leads to wisdom. So I'm just hoping to continue to grow and learn, and we'll see where it takes me.
And final thing, just on Josh Allen, what have been his biggest areas of growth from last year to this?
To this year, you said?
Yeah.
Yeah. Again, I think there's value in experience. You learn through experience, and I think Josh is no different. Last year was an experience for him, and so this year has been as well. And he's only going to get stronger the more experience he gets. And when you can go through different ups and downs and learn from all of it, I think it bodes well for the future.
Thanks, appreciate it.
Thank you.
Hey, Coach, Mark Daniels from Providence Journal here. Mark, on Josh Allen, you've clearly seen a lot of growth from his rookie season to now. What do you think are some of the biggest factors for his jumps and level of play? And what went right with the coaching staff and from your staff when it came to developing a young quarterback?
Well, I would say, just overall, it was a comprehensive plan that we've had since the day we drafted Josh, and a lot goes into that, and it starts with ownership and Brandon being our general manager, and then goes right on down through the coaching staff. So our coaches have done a really good job, and Josh has been a cooperative participant in that. So it takes both sides, and so couldn't be more pleased with that process, and with still more work to be done, I think with Josh in this case, and he would tell you that, and then also with our football team.
And with Brian Dable, how big of a impact has he had on Josh during his time in Buffalo?
You said Brian Dable?
Yeah.
I mean, Brian's a really good coach. They have a close relationship, and I think that's important, right? Similar coordinator, main play caller type relationship. I think you've got to have that relationship, and that's an important one. And I think Ken Dorsey also does a good job kind of in that triangle, so to speak, as our quarterback's coach, and the relationship they have, I think, is also important.
Thank you.
Sure.
Hey, Sean, how are you?
Good, Matt. How are you?
Good. I wanted to ask you about Matthew Judon. I know you've seen a good deal of him when you've played against the Ravens the last few years, but what stands out about how they're using him in New England and just the challenge he presents?
Yeah, I mean, you watch the film of him impacting quarterbacks, and it's not fun to watch. I can promise you that. Again, like I said, they went out early in free agency and made the moves that they intended to make, and guys that they wanted to target, and they did it at a high level. Put a lot of money into that, and you're seeing that pay off on the field with his production, both tight ends and their production, and the list goes on. So well done by them.
And what stands out about what they do on special teams? I know you guys take that seriously there, and Patriots are ranked close to the top of the league in a lot of categories. What do you see when you watch their teams?
Yeah, when you watch the returner, Stroud, I mean, does just a great job getting north and making people miss. Good, solid returner, good football player. A lot of respect for him, and Slater's been at it for years. Does it at a high level, class act all the way, and a lot of respect for him as well, both on and off the field. And again, they're in first place for a reason. They play good football and haven't turned the ball over. And so that usually goes hand in hand with winning football games.
Thanks, Sean.
Sure.
Hi, Coach. It's Karen Garegian from the Boston Herald.
Hey, Karen, how are you?
Hey, I'm good. How are you?
Good.
I was just curious your thoughts on their defense, and if you're seeing a lot of similarities from other defenses in the past, or does this one have its own identity?
When you say their defense and other defenses in the past,
Their
specific to
defenses, yes, specific to the Patriots that you've had to face before. Yeah.
I mean, they're very smart. They've got smart players. I think they can do a lot because of it. They can profile different defenses and game plan different defenses every week because of that. They've got a lot of guys back that had maybe left and now have returned. I think that has helped them as well from a continuity standpoint. And Judon was mentioned earlier. So they've got a very talented defense.
Thanks.
Sure.
Hey, Sean, just wondering how you felt that Marquez Stevenson handled himself in his first game, especially being near his hometown and, having to go through all that, and also how Isaiah has handled everything since then leading up to this week as well. I know he's probably obviously disappointed.
Yeah, that's part of the hard part of our business is making those decisions. I don't take those lightly. As far as Speedy goes, I thought he took a step, but there's more work to be done for him and for us as a team.